God. Smog. Pollution. What's going on, everybody? So today I was going to do a video on something that kind of hit home with me. My buddy Downshift83, if you don't know who that is, then you probably don't watch moto vlogs, but you should go check him out. He made a video about his recent experience buying his new bike. He bought a brand new Ducati Diavel, and it's a badass bike. But the thing about a Ducati is it's a high-end bike, and not everyone has them, so it's harder to find them. So he was going from dealership to dealership, going to, you know, all these places that were authorized Ducati dealers and trying to get a test drive on one, and they would just not take him seriously. He was just saying that 2 out of 3 different dealerships just had no intention of selling to him because I guess they thought that he would not buy, or thought he was not a serious customer. But I went through something very similar, and I haven't actually said anything about this on my channel yet, and I don't think I'm gonna name any names right now. The business as a whole, some of the guys there were pretty good, but this guy I believe was a manager of some sort. He's been there a really long time. And every time I've ever gone in there, this guy's been in there. The original plan was to not get a CBR. You know, a lot of you guys, if you keep up with my Instagram, you'll know that I was very, very split on a couple different bikes. And one of them was an R1. Another R1. But this time I wanted to get a new R1. Or a newer model R1. I had an 09 before. And we'll go over here. I had an 09 before, and I wanted to get a 12 or a 13 because I love the front end of it, and plus I love the crossplane. So I ended up going to the store. Figured I would look around and see if anything caught my eye, and you know, it's just something different. And at this point I was not necessarily dead set on an R1, but it was one of my options. I was not going to rule out anything. Gixxer, CBR, Ninja, R1, whatever. I even thought about Aprilia or Ducati. Ducati and Aprilia got ruled out quickly for the fact that there's so much maintenance involved and it's so expensive, and it was just out of my budget. So I decided against that. Walked in, there were a couple of different CBRs that really looked good to me, and I sat on them, and something was just off about them. Like, they just had things that were wrong with them, or they were too high mileage or whatever. Kept looking, and then I was like, you know, maybe the CBRs. So at that point I really started to look at CBRs in a whole different light, and it became one of the biggest options for me. I think it came down to that and the R1, but there was an 09 or a 2010 R1, and it was yellow, and I was like, man, I don't really want yellow, but I guess I could paint it, and it was also a really good price. So all these different options came into play, and anyone who's ever bought a new vehicle or anything like that, you're gonna have so many different options. And it's really a freaking headache. It sucks. But anyways, so I told the guy at my reservations, I was like, I'm not really sure about this. The clutch lever seems a little soft. This looks a little rough and blah, blah, blah. So he was like, well, hey, I've got a new R1 in the back. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah. I was like, well, what year? He said, well, it's a 13. It's got, I think he said it had 600 miles on it, and it was a matte gray, and it was the exact everything I was looking for. I was like, wow, that's perfect. So I settled. I was like, yeah, this is it. This is the bike. So I decided to get the R1. So we sat down with the guy that was going to do paperwork, and he pulled the bike out and was like letting me hear it run and make sure everything was good. You know, after I pull it out and listen to it, I'm like, yeah, this is good. We come inside and we were, you know, starting paperwork and everything, or so I thought. We get in there and he was just running credit. He wasn't gonna do any paperwork. He had no intentions of it. He legitimately goes, it's 4 o'clock now. We close at 5. I don't know of any salesman here that could do it within that amount of time. So it pissed me off to no end, because the shop that I bought my R1 from, the blue R1, I bought that one and I literally closed that place down. They stayed like an hour and a half later than they were supposed to just to make the sale, and that's what it took, and they got the sale. They got my money. Well, this guy refused to do it. So I was like, fuck you, I'll go somewhere else. And I left immediately. I got up and drove down the street and bought a CBR from another business. I am totally with downshift on his going up and just showing him, hey, if you would have, you know, made some effort, then you would have probably had a nice paycheck that week. But instead you didn't. I can't stand shitty salesmen. Anyways, I know I'm babbling, but that was my story on shitty salesmen and how they just give, not all of them, but some of them do. They just, some care and some don't. Unfortunately, this guy didn't care. Not saying the business didn't care, so I don't want to bash the business, but he didn't care. So that is the story of why I have a CBR and not an R1. I would have had the R1 if it hadn't been for him. But anyways, guys, that's going to be it for today. Until next time, catch you guys in the next video. See ya. So if you guys do celebrate Halloween, what are some good, I want to hear some good stories, some good.
They treat you like one of two things, typically. Number one, you are a freaking badass biker guy